Hello, it's Govinda Singh 1984, Gablove 84 Ari of O.S.N.S.TEA Ltd, and I just wanted to do a vlog regarding the Ukraine crisis. Now, to get things into perspective of currently what's going on in the Balkan states and the Ukraine, we need to go further back 100 years ago to World War I and World War II. So I'll give a quick summary to get an understanding of what the crisis is, what Ukraine is faced with. In 1914 to 1918, during World War I, you had the General Erich Ludendorff and General Paul von Hindenburg from the German-Prussian army. Now, they were born in Poland and Poznań in Poland. They were German by ethnicity but Prussian by nationality. Now, they had stationed the German-Prussian army along the Eastern Front in the Baltic and Balkan states to repel the Tsarists, the royalist monarchists from Russia, who were exploiting the Baltic and Balkan states, and they were pushing back the Russian army. Now, from 1914 to 1918, they were generally very successful on the Eastern Front, to the point where Lenin from Russia, who was serving under the Tsars at that particular moment in time, signed a treaty to withdraw Russia from combat, to withdraw Russia from war. So it's practically a victory for the German-Prussian army in the Eastern Front. But suddenly on the home front, the German population on the home front suddenly lost support for the German-Prussian army and started saying, we can no longer support this war, we need to stop this war. Now, you would have to ask yourself why, when there's practically a victory for General Erich Ludendorff and General Paul von Hindenburg of the German-Prussian army on the Eastern Front, when it was practically a victory, why would they suddenly say now we can no longer support this war? Because then we have to look over to Zionist England and Zionist America, who were attacking the Western Front during 1914 to 1918, and there were millions of Indian soldiers who were serving under the British Raj due to the Rothschild colonization of India and Africa, who were deployed to attack the Western Front. So why would they suddenly stop supporting the German army on the home front? Because the money that's been looted from India and plundered from India and Africa in regards to the diamonds and gold, the cotton and wheat and the iron ores and the metals that have been extorted from the rural countrysides of India and Africa, they're going to bring in the Weimar Republic bankers from Germany. They're going to share the stolen loot with them. They're going to share the war booty with them. And so this is the reason why the Weimar Jewish German bankers in Germany started calling for the population to no longer support the German army in the war against the Tsarist royalists in Russia, because they're going to share the stolen loot with them. So Germany had to surrender in World War I. They did not lose on the battlefield in World War I. Germany lost on the home front, where they no longer had support on the home front. So they had to surrender in World War I in 1918. And they had to cede territory that they were protecting in Eastern Europe, in the Balkan and Baltic states, meaning they had to return it to, they had to cede territory, surrender territory that they had gained also. So this happened in 1918. In 1917 in Russia, there was a revolution in Russia where basically the Russian provisional government, headed by the democratic champion Alexander Kerensky, who was initially at war against General Erich Ludendorff and General Paul von Hindenburg from the German army in World War I. He was fighting under the Tsars and alongside Lenin to repel the German-Prussian army in World War I. Well, he organized to overthrow the Tsarist regime in Russia and overthrew the Tsars of Tsar Nicholas II. And eventually in 1917 they had overthrown the Tsars in Russia. But due to the fragile time, and then there was a Russian provisional government in charge, but it was very short-lived, because the Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, saw this as an opportunity to seize power from the Russian provisional government and seize power and set up a Bolshevik regime instead. And this was very unpopular in Russia because they did it undemocratically and they seized power, whereas Alexander Kerensky was calling for democracy and the Russian population to be able to have a vote regarding their future fate. So this is when the Bolsheviks seized power from the Russian provisional government, and this happened during the 1917-1918 era. So it's a very fragile time, and so from 1918 up until 1932, in Russia there was a collectivization policy and the 5-year plans and the various industrialization during the Stalinist era, you could say, after Stalin assumed control of the Russian territories. And in 1932, which is about 14 years after the end of World War I, Russia did the Stalin Iron Hand, Stalin dictator. He made a purge into the Ukraine, and there was a famine famine in the Ukraine, where 10 to 20 million people in the Ukraine starved from the Holodomor famine due to the purge from the Russians. Now this made the German National Socialist Workers' Party in Germany go absolutely furious, because those who fought in World War I, such as the Führer Adolf Hitler, blamed Zionist England and Zionist America, and basically the Jewish Weimar Republic bankers, for calling people to boycott the war on the home front, because that was precisely the reason why the German-Prussian army was stationed in Eastern Europe during World War I, World War II, to repel such Russian purges into the Baltic and Balkan states. So when 10 to 20 million people died in the Holodomor famine, the German National Socialist Workers' Party saw this as a preventable famine. This would not have happened if they had full support in World War I, and they could have repelled Stalin or any other Russian who tried to make a purge into the Baltic or Balkan states. So this what's made you could say the neo-Nazis turn into monsters. Now 6 million people, Jewish people, were put in concentration camps, and many were killed. And it's a finger-pointing game. Who's to blame? You have the Zionists who will say it was the Nazis' fault. They persecuted the Jews and treated them like second-class citizens, and they saw the Jews as inferior race. But then there's people like me who blame what made the Nazis the monsters. I don't see the neo-Nazis, if Holodomor didn't happen, to just randomly go around and start exterminating the Jewish community. Because if you look at the Holodomor famine in 1932, where 10 to 20 million Ukrainians died from preventable hunger because of a Russian purge. Well, if what happened after the Holodomor famine in 1932? In 1933, the Führer Adolf Hitler expelled the Jews from Germany. It happened a year later after the famine. So it's what's made them monsters, because they've looked at the Jewish community and said, it's your fault that 10 million people have perished in Ukraine. That was precisely why the German army were there, to prevent Russians from making purges into Eastern Europe, and because you made us surrender on the home front, that's why they're suffering. So they snapped. So who endangered the Jewish identity? Well, those who endangered the Jewish identity is Zionist England and Zionist America, who are going to share the stolen loot that they've plundered from the indigenous South American markets and Africa and India. So that's the blame of the Zionist Weimar Republic bankers for endangering the Jewish identity. But that's a different discussion. So it's a very